Hey y'all, I'm so sleepy. Like you want to know what this Aries full moon is doing for me? It's made me sleepy. All I can do is just really rest. And so I was supposed to go live at 10, but I'm just literally mustering up the energy to set up this light. I tried to find my Apple TV remote, couldn't find it. Right? So we're just rolling on whispers of energy, but 100% determination. So I really wanted to talk about and keep us on track, right? To talk about the Aries full moon that took place today. So we're just gonna talk about everything. What we're currently gonna. Oh, my name is Jasmine, by the way. Welcome to Flourish Homestead and Apothecary. Flourish Homestead and Apothecary is a 100% Black woman owned artisanal collective of people who hyper focus on African and indigenous ways of living a fully present life. We operate through the means of like astrology, herbalism, homesteading, etc., right? We're gonna jump right in. Oh, and just happy full moon. I'm so sorry that I could not find my remote. Yeah, life been life is going to life for the rest of 2024 for the girl. But the only reason I'm on here is because A, my lesson plan was already done. So shout out to that. And B, I'm really full moon bag already packed and I'm out. Okay, getting ready to enjoy this full moon because honestly, y'all, I slept all day. I was so tired. Yeah. And I just don't feel good. Like I had 6 meetings back to back to back, and one of them I taught. Can you believe it? Me, somebody's teacher. Anyway, y'all. So the sun is at Libra, and it's at 25 degrees and 0 minutes. It's in the seventh house. The moon was in Aries at 24 degrees. Sorry, y'all, something in my teeth. Sorry, at 24 degrees and 35 minutes. It is now at Taurus, and even though this isn't current when I did the work earlier, that's at 0 degrees and 58 minutes, and it's in the first house. We got Mercury in Scorpio at 6 degrees and 28 minutes. It's like on the seventh, eighth house cusp. Venus is in Sagittarius. It just moved today at 0 degrees and 6 minutes in the eighth house. Mars is in Cancer. We're going to talk about that, y'all. At 23 degrees and 6 minutes in the fifth house. And Jupiter is in Gemini. And it's also retrograde at 21 degrees and 13 minutes. And it's the third house, right? And Saturn is in Pisces at 13 degrees and 23 minutes. It's also retrograde, and that is in the 12th house. Uranus is in Taurus, and it's at 26 degrees and 25 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. And it's in retrograde in the second house. Neptune, I thought I heard something. Neptune is in Pisces at 27 degrees and 48 minutes, and it's also um, retrograde, and it is on our first house it's the first house, but it is literally also on the ascendant line. So I just wanted to say that for whatever it was worth. And then Pluto is at Capricorn, and it is finally direct, as we talked about in our like intuitive live. I don't know. And it was at 29 degrees and 39 minutes, also in the 11th house. And Aries or Chiron is in Aries at 21 degrees and 4 minutes. It's retrograde in the first house. The North Node is at 6 degrees and 36 minutes of Aries, and it is retrograde, while the South Node is in the same degrees and also retrograde in Libra. And Aries, or the North Node in Aries, is in the first house, and the South Node is in Libra and it's in the seventh house. You also have the Black Moon at 12 degrees and 14 minutes. We'll talk about that more one day. My lot of fortune is at 0 degrees and 48 minutes of Libra, and it's in the seventh house also. All right. And I guess since we talked about our ascendant line, we can talk about our descendant line, which is at 27 degrees and 48 minutes of Virgo. Right. All right. So I know for the astrology heads out there, y'all will love that. All right, so the full moon is going on right now, but it went direct in Aries at 7:28 a.m. and like I said, 24 degrees and 35 minutes, which was taking place in our first house, right? Then something a little wild would happen that kind of takes the energy of the full moon. Even though the full moon was in Aries, we actually went voided course from 12:26 p.m. Till we entered Taurus at 4 p.m. So the moon's energy technically wasn't accessible, even though it was a full moon, and even though it had the full illumination of the sun, because the moon was not in a constellation for about 4 hours today. The afternoon could have felt chaotic, or you just could have not had any energy, brain fog, all the things that kind of go on when we are switching um, constellations, right? Or when we're switching zodiac signs. So I just wanted to say all of that because that happened today. And also, I know I don't want to say the world is crazy because I haven't really interacted with the world, if I'm being honest. Like I said, I was asleep and making my updates to the lesson plan that I wanted to talk about today. Um, and interacted with really close family and friends. Like, other than that, I don't really know the actual energy of today, but overall, we felt the intense energy that has been going on, and that is because it is a super moon, and it is actually the biggest super moon of the year. And a super moon is nothing but when the moon astronomically is the closest to the planet, right? And so this moon is the closest one of the year, right? And this moon is also traditionally called the hunter's moon, right? And it's also a blood moon. And so technically, a blood moon is astronomically um, a total lunar eclipse. It's just that the sun's energy still gets to it indirectly, which is why we can still see it, but it's red. I haven't even been outside today, so I can't verify how strong this blood moon is, but it's definitely supposed to be one according to everything else. So, you know how we do it here. We always just jump into what is the actual moon. The actual moon is astronomically an object that orbits a celestial body or a planet, because it's typically caught in the gravitational pull of that planet, but it's typically not a star because a star would fry that ass, right? It would fry because it is technically a satellite, right? Right? And then our moon is like Earth's natural satellite. So there can be many different types of moon, just not one, but particularly here on Earth, we only have one satellite, and it is our moon, right? And our moon helps to moderate the Earth's wobble as we're spinning on our axis, and it also helps to stabilize it too. It also helps to regulate our climate, our weather, and our seasons. It's typically about 239,000 to 226 miles away, but I'm here to tell you, since 2023, the moon has gotten closer than the typical 226,000 miles. It's getting about 220,000 right now. It has peaked as much, like I said, since 2023. So we're really experiencing unprecedented times with the satellite energy of our moon, and just literally how close it's been and different things like that. And absolutely know that that plays a role in our weather. Like I just said, it plays a role in our climate. So, in addition to the environmental injustices such as climate warming, things like this can really enhance our storms, right? So I just wanted to really, really talk about that. The moon also controls the gravitational pull um, of the earth, and it also controls the gravitational pull of water in our bodies, since we're about 70 to 79%, don't quote me on that, water, right? So astrologically, the moon is also represented by feminine yin or receptive energy. It's governed by Cancer and the ruler of the fourth house. The moon also regulates and controls our emotions, because it is the closest celestial body to the earth. And yes, a satellite is technically still a celestial body. It spends about 2 days in each sign, and it really controls our innermost thoughts and our innermost world, or who we are when we're most comfortable, or we feel most at ease or the safest. Um, Yeah. And so, like the moon, our emotions are also supposed to fluctuate. So, like the temporariness of the moon standing each astrological sign for only 2 days and it completing a orbit around the earth or around the zodiac wheel every 30 days is indicative of how the ebb and flow of our emotions are supposed to be. Typically, the moon also represents, from an astrological perspective, mothers, motherhood, your native environments, and family, which is very related to its rulership over the fourth house. Okay, so today is a full moon. Astronomically, a full moon is when the moon is opposite of the sun, causing the light of the sun to fully illuminate on the moon from Earth's perspective. So it's 180 degrees from one another. And please understand that during this time, the Earth is located between the moon and the sun, right? And so that's why we can see it fully, is technically because we're caught in between both. And that is what makes a full moon from an astronomical perspective. But from an astrological perspective, the moon is in opposition, or it's 180 degrees from the sun, which means that the sun and the moon are in sister signs or in opposition of one another. So the sun is in Libra and the moon is in Aries, and it's taking place on the Aries Libra axis. So that's the tension and that's the opposition that is highlighted by every single full moon, right? And so all full moons are oppositions. And it is the halfway point in the moon cycle or the lunar cycle, but it is the third phase of the moon cycle after the new moon and the first quarter moon, but before the last quarter moon. I've talked about some of those things over on the IG, but yeah, we'll talk about it more here because we're gonna be here for a while. I'll drop something. Mm. In ancient times, full moons are associated with fertility, abundance, completion, illumination, transformation, action. It is also historically known to be a very emotional time. It is also the most powerful portion of our moon cycle. Typically, full moons represent harvest, illumination, and a time to see the results of the intentions that you set from the new moon, right? And our new moon was in Libra 2 weeks ago. And it is a moment to just honor what is. Typically, the best things to do on a full moon is celebrating achievement, embracing gratitude, and engaging in self reflection. And it's a time to hold space and honor. And have honor, honestly, for yourself and for others, right? But it's really just a time to sit with what is. And again, we talked about what's a super moon. It's just a moon that is closest to the earth, right? And like I said, this moon is a hunter's moon. So all full moons that take place in October are known as hunter's moons, right? And the reason it is known as a hunter's moon astronomically is because during this time, well, we just like we have sunrises, we have a moonrise, right? I'll talk about that at another time. And typically, moon rises happen like later around this time of year. They typically happen, they typically happen like around 50 minutes. During hunter moons, for some reason, the moon rises about 30 minutes. So it has 20 um like basically it has 20 more minutes of light than normal, to make a long story short. And our ancestors knew this, right? And so they used the brightness of this moon, that's why it was called a hunter's moon, to stay out longer, because typically, like, the days are still good, but you didn't always have to come back home so soon because there would still be moonlight, because basically with that 20-minute window, and the differences between it typically having a moon rise at 50 minutes and it does it at 30 minutes, in a way it just makes the moon light longer. And it was a time for us to use that to hunt and gather at night in order to really get ready for the winter. So hunter moons was like that last big night hunt, that last big night gather before winter, and it often did us good, which is why it's famously known as that, right? And it's a blood moon, like I said. And the blood moon is nothing but a total lunar eclipse. I don't want to say nothing. All eclipses actually are important. You know, a couple times a year, we really talk about eclipses here. We got into that energy talking about it in our previous couple videos, right? So won't really talk about what an eclipse is this go round, but we will be talking about a blood moon, and it technically is a total lunar eclipse. And the reason why they call it a blood moon is because it's a red tinge to the moon because of the eclipse. And so, like I said previously, all you need to really understand about this eclipse is the moon still gets some of the sun's light. It's just indirectly, and it either causes the moon to vary between colors of red, yellow, or orange, right? So yellow with a little intensity, orange with somewhat moderate intensity, and then we know it to be red. That's what we would know to be blood moons, okay? But spiritually, all eclipses are a time, or lunar eclipses are a time to ground and time to feel fully present and calm. Um, and it's also a time of healing and or transformation. Okay, so as we know, this full moon is taking place in Aries, right? And it's taking place in the late degrees of Aries. And if you know anything about astrology, how the energy works, because it's circular, right? Can kind of create different conditions for different groups of people in different areas of the astrological wheel, right? So when this full moon peaked and it went direct, um, it actually and it went direct in the late degrees of Aries. It actually affects people from 21 degrees to 29 degrees, or the third decan of Aries, and this is all cardinal signs. Man, this fruit fly is getting on my nerves, like, and it's just here, anyways. And the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So all Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn from 21 to 29 degrees. You can go look up your chart. You can enter your chart, your birth location, and your birth time. And in addition to telling you your planet and your houses, it will also tell you your degrees in minutes. So anywhere in your natal chart that has any of those cardinal signs between 21 and 29 degrees, you will be affected by this full moon the most. Okay. And even if you just don't have those exact degrees, if you have those placements, like I have those placements, I can't stay awake. I told y'all this. All right. So we're about to learn about some of Aries' characteristics. It's the youngest and the bravest of the zodiac sign. As we know, all of the zodiac signs reflect actual places in our universe. Aries is no different. Aries is a constellation that is located in the northern hemisphere, with Pisces to the west and Taurus to the right or the east. And so if Pisces is to the west, just to the left, right? And it usually can be seen in the December nights early, before 9 p.m. from Earth, right? It is between its closest star to our solar system, or actually our galaxy, is about 60 light years away, but its furthest star is about 160 light years away from our galaxy, which is the Milky Way. It is the 11th known smallest constellation, y'all, and it's only 44 square degrees, so that's not very big at all. And it's really, really small. It only has like 6 stars, and most of them are dim. And it sits beside other well-known stars in our 88 constellations that we don't talk about often, because they're not included in the zodiac wheel. So the zodiac wheel is the 12 or 13, if you follow Vedic astrology, astrological signs that the sun travels through, right? But we know that there are 88 known constellations. So some other constellations that Aries sits beside is the Pleiades star cluster and Pegasus, that are outside of our zodiac. So to give you a really quick synopsis of what Aries represents before we hop into the real correspondence, right? Aries represents life, life energy, new life energy, strength, I am, that's actually its mantra, passion, warrior energy, like we talked about. It's the youngest and the bravest of the zodiac. My stomach is always growling. Anyways, it's ruled by Mars. It's a cardinal sign, so it's an initiator. It's the starter of the season, the ruler of the first house. Some of the characteristics of Aries is direct, taking charge, masculine, yang, or action-oriented energy. Sometimes Aries placements can be known to have a fiery personality. Um, and it's the first fire sign, which represents initiation to new embodiment or new life, from a sentient and a conscious perspective, right? It can also represent natural leadership, starter energy. People with Aries placements can be known to be very full of charisma and excitement. I definitely will say that about Aries. Quick to leap energy will rise to any occasion. Very protective because of the warrior energy. Very quick-witted or quick-toned. Sometimes can lack empathy, but quick to forgive and forget. But in general, can be quick to anger. Full of big dreams and emotions. A bright mind, but sometimes like can be brash. And might not think things through. Doesn't listen or doesn't have strategy. So, what areas of our life, according to astrology, uh, does Leo govern? And like I said, its mantra is "I am." Its symbol is the ram. The element that rules over Aries energy is fire. Its ruling planet is Mars. It rules over the first house, which is the house of self. Its modality is cardinal or active. The colors that represent Aries is yellow, red, orange, scarlet, white, sometimes pink or peach, depending on who you talk to. The lucky day for Aries is Tuesday because it's ruled by Mars. And the lucky numbers for my numerology people are numbers 1 and 9. Sometimes people say 7. Tarot card that represents Aries energy is the Emperor. Like we previously said, it is yang or masculine or active energy. Its season is spring. And some of the deities for reverence during Aries season can often be Isis or Aset, the Egyptian first mother, Athena, Shiva, Mars, literally, Aries energy, Minerva. And again, these are deities, in my opinion, unless initiated, that you just revere or you learn about, right? It's the declaration of Aries is I, me, and myself, y'all. It is it's energy. If you're an empath or a deep feeler, a highly sensitive person is barren, dry, fiery, masculine energy. Of course, it's compatible signs or other fire signs, such as Sagittarius and Leo, but it can't get along well with air signs. Air signs are Cancer, Libra. I'm always blanking because I always want to get on here late. I'm sorry, y'all. But our air signs is Aries, it's Libra. I can't even think right now. But I gave y'all two. I'm telling you, if I didn't write it down, it didn't happen. And it's also in detriment in Aquarius, y'all. But I forgot to write down what it was exalted in. I can't remember off the top of my head just late at night. Okay, so what I'm going to start doing always is that even our language are governed by specific areas of the zodiac sign. So one day you will have access to all of my notes, but it will not be today, right? And I'm just going to point out some words that evoke Aries energy or carries Aries energy in order for you to better understand, like I said, for those deep feelers, for those creatives, for those people with deep visualization and very active minds, right? So some of the words is fearless, energetic, pioneering, assertive, honest, independent, forceful, combative, confident, daring, dominant, resilient, impatient, egotistical, self-centered, arrogant, stubborn, extroverted, truth teller, fire starter, explorer, crusader, trailblazer, right? Some of the verbs that we can use around Aries energy is lead, initiate, challenge, or explore, right? Inspire. Yeah. So, and I also want to start talking about symbology, right? A little bit, because I love symbology. Anyways, I like to shout out people. So one of my favorite YouTube channels is the Symbolic Studies. Mm, I don't really think I'm going to try to highlight it right now, but if I remember, I will come back and put it in the comments. Okay. But the RAM stands for change, courage, innovation, adventurous, unyielding spirit, and an unyielding approach to life with passion and very much with the thirst for excitement. And the reason why we mention the ram again is because the ram is the symbol that represents Aries energy. So, Aries traits. We're going to talk about Aries traits when they're balanced and unbalanced, because these traits or these emotions or these personalities often can help you get to know Aries leadership. So, when Aries energy is balanced and operating evenly and along in all chakras at its highest exaltation, it is strong, self confident, and brave, is creative, loyal, truthful, and very respected, and very protective. Don't play. Aries people don't play about who they consider theirs. Do you hear? And I mean that one. Um, Unbalanced energy. So when Aries is restricted to either the lower chakras, right, and it's only sentience but no consciousness, or it can be stuck in any of the energy centers, right? When this happens, it can create an unbalance in Aries energy. And you could be stubborn, or it could be a stubborn trait, attention seeking, outburst of anger, lacking patience, and very impulsive. And Aries traits sometimes around anger, just not Aries energy really can't handle anger, right? And so, yeah. Additional facts about Aries and higher exaltation is a problem solving, strong minded, focused, very intelligent, because sarcastic, and sarcasm is honestly a trait of intelligence. But some of those unbalanced energies can sometimes be very savage, right? But overall, other balanced energies can be romantic, an observer, and honestly kind hearted, right? And like I just talked about, a major inflection of unbalanced Aries energy is typically an inability to deal with or control anger, right? Typically, Aries nature is very strong and powerful personality. Like we said, typically very brave, full of honesty, facing life and problems head on, and not like beating around the bush, but sometimes can suffer from burnout from not knowing how to sit down and take breaks. The ruling planet is Mars. It's a red planet that is known for its ability to be direct and challenge conflict head on. Astrologically, it is known in your natal chart as the planet of action or passion. So it rules over your motivation, your drive, determination, your anger, aggression, how you take energy, your sex drive, and also your creative drive or your energetic drive if you are a person that doesn't have a sex drive, because asexual people do exist, right? The planet dictates how you get things done, where we're confident, where we get noticed, because it rules over the first house, our natural leadership skills in our natal chart. Um, and also, our natal Mars rules over how we tackle life challenges, how we overcome energy, and when we are naturally honorable and courageous. But it could represent in your chart, if you direct the energy, how you can be constructive or destructive, right? And when used in a way that is productive and constructive, it will create a lot of good in your life, because it will highlight how you endure, how you generate stamina, where you have ambition, and how you achieve, right? But Aries energy also represents early childhood, and Mars also represents early childhood. So it can often represent the places and spaces in your natal chart that you may need to put in a lot of work, to like balance your anger. You might be immature in that part. You might be underdeveloped in that part of your natal chart, right? And so it governs where we have the potential to have the most growth. It rules over the first house, which is the house of self. It is the home of your ascendant, and it's the start of your house placements. So wherever your first house is the beginning of your natal chart, and it's the beginning of the house placements in your natal chart. And the houses, like the zodiac signs, you have a planet in all of them, number one. And then when people say like, oh, I don't have any Aries in my chart, yes, you do. You have a house that governs Aries. Sometimes in tropical and Pleiades, you can have double signs, but in whole sign, in Vedic, it's really not the case, and in other forms of astrology and cosmology. So just wanted to say that. It is known historically as the house of self, the house of new beginnings, and the house of the sunrise, right? That's why you see the sunrise and the sunset on people's gravestones. It's associated with that energy from a symbolic perspective. Well, I'm going to give me some more, y'all. Yeah, honestly, some candy. Because I'm so, don't you fall, babes. Because I'm tired. And I'm a little hungry. And I don't think candy's the best thing to do it. But I'm going to do it. So anyways, yeah. Just got me one as an appetizer. I don't know. I might get me another one though. Hold on, y'all. I'm so sorry. All of a sudden, I want candy. Okay, got two. Honestly, y'all, one of them really wasn't even my candy. One of them was candy, but one of them is shit right here every day because if not, I'll forget to take it. And I take my supplements at night. Yeah, I can talk about that later. Okay, but the first house rules over your personality, approach to life, your physical appearance, your characteristics, your sensibilities, your instinct, and your demeanor. Like we talked about, it rules over your early childhood. It helps you understand how important moments shaped your worldview. And when we say personality, we often mean your outside, like your outer mask, because it rules over your ascendant. So it's the first impressions or what people may think may be your personality, on only certain aspects of your personality that you feel comfortable expressing in public or around people. So sometimes it is who you are, but it's a portion of it is the mask you wear in order to be in and around society. And it's a survival mechanism, and we all do it, right? So just wanted to say that. It governs self-impression, your appearance, leadership. That's why you can get confused because you're like, why does Aries energy associated with leadership? Like, shouldn't that be Leo energy? And technically, yes, Leo energy is when you mastered it, but leadership because of Mars in the first house. It's ruled by Aries, okay? New undertakings also covers the beginning of relationships, of businesses, of careers, or a job. Its ruling element is fire, and this is an active form of energy that spreads light anywhere that it goes. And also, fire energy kind of helps us understand how we better navigate difficult situations. Historically, because of the fire energy, Aries energy can be known as freedom loving, outgoing, extroverted, and creative. But it also can be destructive, yang or masculine energy, right? So think like scorched earth, or think like sometimes a very egotistical person, which is why it's one of the keywords of Aries. Or ego energy has some portions of Aries energy too, and also like Leo energy and Scorpio if you tag manipulation. But anyways, yeah. So some of the body parts that Aries governs is the head, the face, especially the forehead, the nose, but not the bone inside the nose. I think that's for about Scorpio. Your mouth, your eyes, and also your optic nerve and your optic lens, your brain, including your vessels in your brain, your motor centers in your brain, your frontal lobes, and then your lateral lobe, your spinal cord fluid, and the muscular system. So, yeah, there's technically small muscles everywhere, including in your brain and in your head. So it helps out with the small muscles in and around your face and your head. And it also governs teeth, ironically, with Saturn and Taurus. All right, y'all. It's natural state for people who are learning, because you are energy workers and you feel it, and you also work with healing yourself or healing others, or you are herbalist, or you might practice qigong or different things like that. Its natural tissue state of Aries is heat or excitement, right? So now we're going to talk about like some of the gifts of Aries. So these are other forms and ways that we can get to know Aries energy. And one of it is just like new energy that's ruled by Aries. Athleticism is ruled by Aries. So athletes are ruled by Aries. Nobody's surprised by that. Bravery, courage, like we talked about, new beginnings or freshness, initiation, spontaneity, and vitality, right? If you are a person who does conjuring, right, or moves energy, does Wiccan, does anything, right? A lot of things that you can focus on for Aries energy are new projects or new beginnings, setting new intentions. Like think of new moon energy. That could be very representative. Aries also rules over rites of passages for children and teenagers because it typically rules over early childhood, but it does represent that threshold where you're leaving childhood and going into young adulthood. Elements in a fire ritual like bonfires, jumping or through a fire, fire walking. And that's why y'all see me bundled up, because I'm actually getting ready to have myself an Aries bonfire because I'm making some moon water, some lunar water. All right. All right. Moon in Aries, y'all. With this, when the moon is in Aries, this is how you naturally might feel if you are natal with your moon in Aries, or how you just might be feeling, particularly today, but yesterday and the day before, right? And this is a deep need for freedom, independence, determination, very self confidence. Overall, can be very active, but there was a lot of energy going on this full moon, so you might not felt as active, very sensitive, very emotional, very active because it's a fire sign, and very much so works with this passion and with this emotions, right? Um, Sometimes impulsive, but full of innovative ideas and really not afraid to be actionable, but may having a hard time completed because of its cardinal energy. Um, but doesn't waste a lot of time in like groundworking or planning, or strategy. More of that strategic energy is ruled by Scorpio. So it can start a lot of things with and have a lot of fervor, passion, and emotions and initiative for it, but might not have done some of the Virgo or the Scorpio or the Capricorn energy to better understand what to do. Oh, and Taurus and Sagittarius energy too. Pioneers and wanting to implement new ideas into reality as soon as possible. It doesn't like slow paces, so often it's not that Aries can't pay attention to details that it doesn't want to, because it doesn't like the slow pace of it, which is why it doesn't like planning or strategizing. Very direct, very straightforward, very they say what they say kind of energy. Likes authority and power and likes to be independent with authority and power. That doesn't mean they hoard it, right? Because Aries moons can be very good leaders, very thoughtful leaders. But it does mean that they have a certain relationship and a certain strength, a certain natural association to authority and to power, as does most Aries placements, right? Some of the positive qualities of Aries moons, and so positive is high exaltation, balanced energy, right? And that's honesty, and this is in the personality or trait department. Is honesty, being resolute, always showing your actually real personality, never faking, never masking. What you see is what you get. Very passionate, quick to reacting, very witty, never holds grudges. Always is a person that's going to forgive, and a mustard seed personality type. So Aries energy really has this ability to see how something can be created, begin to do the initial physical portions of physically manifesting it down into the earth because of their intensity, because of their passion, and because of in that moment they like it so much that they're going to hyper focus on it, even if just not for long, which is typically why it's known as like a mustard seed mentality type. So the unbalanced energy, the more primal energy of Aries energy, it can be like reckless, impatient, dominant personality, never thinking about the future consequences, because of his fast-paced lifestyle, mood swings, cannot handle anger well, overconfident, self-indulgent, aggressive. I'm expecting their needs to be met immediately without understanding where people or situations are coming from, overindulging in work and like neglecting neglecting relationships, right? Okay, so the astrology that we doing good because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give myself about 65 minutes and we just getting right through this one. So the astrology for 2024, this Aries full moon would have been a blood moon and a moon rise made earlier, and it being a super moon. There was also so much going on. So number one, we're not going to talk about today, but shout out to it. Venus just moved into Sagittarius. So happy natal return for all people who have their natal placements in Venus and Sagittarius. But we also had a grand cross or grand square or T square between the moon, Pluto, Mars, and the sun. Basically all the cardinal signs, again, which is Aries, Cancer, and Libra, which is why we said that 21 and 29 degrees and all cardinal placements, that's Cancer, Aries, Libra, and Capricorn, having a little bit of a hard moment, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about the astrology. So in astrology, a grand cross is a rare chart formation natally that typically ever takes place, but it's also rare in the collective, especially during like full moon sometimes, right? And these are where four planets are separated by 90 degrees. And when you look at it on the chart, it literally creates a square in an astrological chart, right? Because again, all of our placements that we look at actually represent the sky, right? And the ecliptic wheel and the zodiac wheel. And so, with that being said, when you look at it, it literally forms a square, like a literal square. And that's why we call it a grand cross, a T square, or a grand square, right? And again, a square is when the planets are having a tense conversation with each other, or flat out when it's a T square, when they be like, whoa. And so we have a lot of fighting energy going on, right? A lot of tense, resistant energy going on in our cardinal signs, right? And it's a really difficult natally. It's a really difficult transit natally and collectively because it highlights major struggles within the self or within the collective that may deeply impact you. But the goal is for better and a deeper understanding of yourself and others or a situation. It's a time of great tension and it can be a time of great difficulty. But if you remember this and use the energy that kind of happened 3 days before, but also 3 days after, because even though the moon is in another sign, it still it is a full moon, right? So it still will have this T square energy attached to it. So like I said, it could be a time of difficulty, but if you use it right, it could create new pathways, new foundations, new start, or balancing of the harmony in your life, with Libra being in the South Node and with the sun being in the South Node, because the sun is a part of this T square. So we're about to talk about all the planets that are involved in this grand cross or this T square or this grand square. And that's Mars in Cancer, Chiron in Aries, the sun in Libra, and Pluto in Capricorn. All right. All right. And so typically, what we need to understand when grand crosses happen, but especially when a grand cross is happening between cardinal signs, when a grand cross is happening between Pluto and Mars and the Sun and Chiron, but also the North Node is there having a subtle conversation, and so is the South Node. They're having a subtle conversation. It's just a time for full presence, for full faith, with especially with Neptune being in Pisces in retrograde in its home house of 12th house, and trust, right? And it's a time of great releasing with the being a full moon, releasing any outdated energy and any outdated timeline and ways of life, and moving you into your highest timeline or your highest frequency, right? And so we talked about the planets. We just talked about that and what we need to expect with this T square and how it's impacting this full moon. It's a lot of emotions, a lot of change. There might even be a lot of challenging things that might have felt like it came up earlier 2 days ago when the moon went into Aries, but also for the rest of the week. And keep in mind that with the sun being a part of this T square and the South Node also being in Libra, where the sun is also, it's also asking us to come to a state of balance in our lives. And it's also motivating us to step into our passion, step into our power, and step into our confidence, right? Mars, which is the ruling planet of Aries, where the full moon is squaring, but Mars is in Cancer right now, and it's a part of this square, and it's squaring the moon. So this will amplify fiery spirit, but only so much because Mars is in Cancer, and Cancer is a cardinal energy, which it does enjoy, but it's water energy. So it is slow down and it cannot express itself. And this is encouraging you to slow down. So this is why some people with Mars being in Cancer might feel the need to slow down and be more strategic. That's actually what it's teaching you, is how to help you overcome some of the more primal instincts that may exist within Aries energy, or the underdevelopedness of really just initiating and starting but never doing groundwork and getting the strategy, because it is in a water sign and it's a cardinal water sign. So water signs, if they're going to do anything, likes to be prepared, like earth signs, right? Because they have a lot of emotion and typically don't like to be wrong and don't like surprises. A lot of water signs don't like surprises, and that cardinal energy of initiation, and the part of that cardinal energy, much like Capricorn's cardinal energy, because it's on the same axis, is to do the groundwork, is to plan, is to strategize. Okay. But Mars is also the fighter and the warrior of the zodiac. So the areas that your passion should be directed around right now should be your emotional health, your emotional drive, your emotional motivations, your vulnerability, and your sensitivities. So you can operate in like deepen your intuition with yourself, deepen your relationship with yourself, deepen your intimacy with yourself, because the first house does govern like self intimacy, right? And the ways in which you pour into you and the ways in which you nourish you, because Mars is in Cancer. So it's asking you to move at your own pace. So what you should be focusing on right now with this square energy, it might not be a good time to necessarily always do business. This could be a good time with this Mars, a part of the square, for today and maybe up until Monday, just to really focus on personal matters in your domestic life again. The moon went void, of course, today, and now the moon is in Taurus. And Taurus do be about that money. Taurus do be about that resource. Taurus do be about working hard, but Taurus do be about resting when resting is needed. And it might be asking you to check in with your intentions and your motivation around, like I said, your emotional health, especially around self-talk and internal dialogue. Ooh, sorry about that, y'all. I always get so chugged up around this time of the year. It also might highlight with this Mars and Cancer energy and it being a square to the moon, it might be asking you how motivated are you to care for yourself or nurture for yourself. Cancer is really asking you, like I said, about your self-talk and your self-care. And your self-love, and asking you the ways with Mars being there that you might be harsh or you might be brash or you might need more nurturing. And what are the consequences if you aren't loving yourself, if you aren't kind to yourself, if you aren't compassionate to yourself, because there will be consequences with the North Node also being there asking you to choose yourself. And it's saying that if you aren't choosing yourself right now, you could feel a little bit of a learning curve of starting a new routine, getting on track. With this square around your self-motivation, especially like in the areas that govern the fourth house, but around self-love, self-nurturing, self-talk, and different things like that. Also, a part of the square is Pluto, and it just went direct at 29 degrees in Capricorn. We talked about that in our last video, and it's just again asking us to get rid of or understanding and really highlight in this square the traditions and the rules and the structures that no longer work, and corruption at a systematic level, and helping us tell the difference between what true power and false power is. So true power is sovereignty. True power is understanding that everyone is chosen because we exist. And if you exist, then you take up space, at least in my opinion, and believe in a creator that is very strategic and wouldn't create anything that isn't chosen, right? It's really asking to understand that because you have that life spark inside of you, because all of us have souls, because all of us have spirits, and we understand that there's something in us outside of this body form that still lives, that still will go on, right? That is true power. But false power is the codependency that we have on institutions and systems and businesses in Capricorn that really make us and try to make us believe that we don't have power, that we don't have control. And that's truly a lie. We have power and we have control, right? Over who we are and the choices that we make, right? And it's asking us to release what needs to be let go, especially in business, especially around elitism, around government, financial systems, and industries. But it also wants to highlight in our personal lives where we have too much dependence on a system or a thing. Pluto being in Capricorn is really the reason why a lot of people are doing homesteading and herbalism like me, that energy, and being fully aware and paying attention to seeing these systematic things kind of crumble because of the corruption that's associated with them, really highlighted how much of our everyday lives, from our food, from our water, from homes being built, and all these things, our comfort, our amenities, our little survival is literally tied up, right? And has a much of a codependent element on systems, institutions, right? So yeah, just wanted to highlight that. And it's again really encouraging you, like this full moon, and like I previously just said, to face outdated systems in your life and to understand your power, Pluto, your passion, Mars and Aries energy, your motivation, that's Mars and Aries energy, your emotions, Cancer, and how they drive you to and to also honor what drives you emotionally, Cancer, psychologically, Pluto, but also honoring your vulnerabilities and your sensitivities, which is also Cancer energy, because they make you stronger. And if you surrender and don't fight from a place of ego or survival or too much pride or anger during this time period, you will be surprised about the energy that comes into your life. Lastly, what is a part of this grand cross is a Chiron in Aries. And Chiron is the wounded healer, and astrologically, it reminds you, or it highlights a place in your life and in your natal chart where only you can heal from what you have been through. And it usually comes at an early age. A person is usually a victim from it. So it's really the journey from how becoming a victim or a martyr, right? And becoming a healer, becoming your own healer, right? So Chiron in Aries is silently reminding us of our wounds, the wounds that only we can heal and only we can address, because Aries does rule over self, and so does the first house. And as for us to go through the fire of self-initiation, reminding us that our wounds, for us, are portals of transformation, which leads us to healing, which gives us our power to heal ourselves and others around us, because we know from lived experience, that reminds us that we are here to help and to teach, in addition to being on our own journeys, because all of us are teachers to someone in some way. So is it a reminder that you can rise above your wounds and your pain, and it can mean something, right? So Chiron is in Aries from 2028 to 2027. And again, it's about self-initiation into a shamanic journey, where you are your own medicine and you have what it takes to heal yourself, right? And so, really, with Chiron being in Aries, this is just a reminder because I haven't talked about it formally here. It's helping you to understand yourself and your spectrum of self-awareness, specifically around your boundaries and around triggers and around what is your responsibility and what is not your responsibility around your boundaries and your triggers, instead of making other people responsible for them, which is Libra energy. And that energy is in the South Node, and that denotes codependence or co-enmeshment, and also covert manipulation or subtle manipulation, um, which can alternate between like the Libra Aries cusp, right? It's also using your emotion for construction, not destruction, when Chiron is in Aries, and using that anger, that righteous anger, to change your life. And it's also a really good time with you being your own healer, that you pray and meditate and visualize and script and also work hard, because it's a time to break old habits, and old habits around your limitations, around yourself. Is a time to ignite your inner warrior and really start a new chapter in your life, for the time period that Chiron is in Aries, right? And it just is really empowering you to explore and to test yourself, and to be your own biggest cheerleader. It's really just asking you to choose you, especially with the North Node being there in all ways. And speaking of that, we're going to talk about the North Node. And the North Node is asking you to be brave, passionate, and courageous about who you are, independently, and where you begin and where you end. It's also asking you, do you have a self care, and a deep intimacy with yourself, a relationship with yourself? But Aries in the Libra axis is here, and that's the me. Aries energy, first house energy. Libra is seventh house energy. Wheat energy is at, and this is where the full moon is taking place, because the sun is in Libra, right? Along with the South Node, and Aries is there, and so falls on that Aries Libra axis, right? It's asking you to balance what is your responsibility for yourself and what is your responsibility that you have for the community, and asking you again, like every full moon, in Aries, do you have a healthy relationship with levels of independence and interdependence, with and for your community? All right. So how do we use this energy? Protection work, protection work, protection work, protection work. Okay. Protection work is praying for your physical home, your physical environment. Some people might have rituals and invocations. Some people might have conjurations and root work. Some people might literally do protection work with the moon. Some people might make some sort of protection water, especially because there's been a lot of storms going on and different things like that, and rain. So yeah. Also, like I said, energy work, so Reiki, Qigong, yoga, like I said, conjuring, candle work, root work, etc. Making sure you cleanse your aura right now. So let me tell you how to cleanse your aura. The best way to cleanse your aura is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. Before I even get out of my bed, I just visualize all of my energy centers, right? So Google a picture of the chakra or the energy systems, and I visualize a ball, and if and like a healing energy, a golden white energy, going over those balls every morning, or over those energy centers, healing any energy, healing any crack, and that also heals your or your layers of your auric field, because your auric field is connected to your energy centers and also to your subtle energy, which is your prana and your chis, right? So I do that, and yeah, that's also, in my opinion, protection work too. So doing that, I'm going, like I said, going to be going outside doing a bonfire, because it's one of the rituals of Aries, and I'm going to be making moon water, and I'm also going to be making a simmer pot, with Aries herbs, which we'll talk about. Also, you can wear the colors of Aries, right? And you could have naturally worn or been that energy. So white represents all of the zodiac signs, but red, yellow, orange, scarlet, sometimes pink or peach for some people. Root chakra work, I would highly suggest doing root chakra work or working with Mars or Aries frequency. And you can find this on YouTube, so it's completely for free. You can also find root chakra meditations on YouTube or sound baths, and you can fall asleep to those and wake up refreshed and recharged in the morning. And that also counts as an auric cleaning, because it's basically sound healing, but it's 144 hertz. And specifically 144.72 hertz. Some people might have tuning forks. If you have tuning forks and you have a tuning fork that has 144 hertz, then I would do that also. Also, self-reflection, inner reflection, shadow work, and journaling, I would highly recommend right now, in addition to moon gazing and letting this full moon, specifically with it being a super moon, and a blood moon, touch that body, touch that skin. So I would just spend some time outside tonight if you can, moon gazing and doing different things like I'll be doing. Some of the herbs that you can work with specifically that represent Aries energy is nettle, ginger, basil, sage, rosemary, wormwood, ashwagandha, thyme, lemon balm, calendula, which is also a flower, hyssop, spearmint, comfrey, and tarragon. So yes, those are some of the herbs if you have in your cupboard that you can use. If you have any dried flowers or any tree barks that you can work with, either for teas or other things in addition to the herbs, you can, well, don't some of these you shouldn't drink or eat, so please be careful. But you can use them in root work, you can use them on candle work, and you can use them in like placing fresh pieces of wood or these flowers on your altar. And that's black eye Susans, poppies, red roses, tulips, tiger lily, honeysuckle, holly, and chestnut. So those are the two trees or the two woods. Additional herbs that you can work with is cayenne, burdock, red clover, yarrow, St. John's wort, hops, milk thistle. I can never say this one. The sarsaparilla and coriander. Okay. All right. And we always talk about guardian herbs. So guardian herbs is to guard Aries energy if you feel like you have balanced Aries energy. And those herbs specifically are ginger, nettle, wormwood, remedy. So remedy herbs will be herbs that you use to help with the imbalance of Aries energy and to correct it. That's yarrow, vervain, eucalyptus, and hops. And I just put some eucalyptus on before I started this video. Remedies of imbalanced energy. So that's just cooling and cool activated herbs, and cooling teas or baths. And so we just talked about those. Relaxing nerve vines and moistening herbs. So a moistening herb is like, slippery elm, even though it's not ruled by Aries. And the nerve vine is ashwagandha, which we talked about is a herb of Aries, right? And so is yarrow. Yarrow can somewhat be a nerve vine. But yeah, stillness and full presence, like we talked about, are actually remedies for the imbalanced energy of Aries. So that with this T square taking place, please hyper do that. Also working out, because of this relationship Aries with athleticism and active or deep listening. Some of the crystals that you already have in your repertoire, because I recommend only using what you have until you can grow your collection. Is citrine, bloodstone, ruby, diamonds, metals, red jasper, and garnet. So if you have any of those crystals, they represent Aries energy, and you can either wear them, set them on your altars, or when you are outside and you're moon bathing, like me, you can take your crystals outside and charge them under this moon, right? And so, yeah, or you can, wear these crystals outside too and let them be charged in this direct Aries energy, right? And so, like I said, you can do energy work, you can pray or do health rituals for your head, your back, and your neck. And then some of the scents or oils or incense you can use is pine, geranium, and dragon's blood, and any of the herbs that we talked about. If you have it in essential oil form, you definitely can do that. Okay. I think that is all, y'all. I think that is all. And thank you so much for being here. We got through a lot. We changed up some stuff in our routine that we usually talk about, but I'm kind of glad about it. And we added some new stuff, included symbology. So I can't wait to get feedback, and happy full moon. I'm about to go outside. Like I just told y'all, my full moon bag already packed. So, all right, I'll see y'all later. Happy full moon.